Guys, I did a thing. It's like spilling over the top. And the books are going everywhere. I went to Diversity Thrift again and got a box of books. It's quite massive, just a little bit. I wasn't planning to, but my friend went down to get a piercing, and it's like right nearby, so we just stopped by, and I was like, I'm mature, I'm not gonna get a book. But then they had a sale going on, and it was 10 cents for a paperback and 50 cents for a hardback. And I was like, oh, I'll just get a couple of books, and that turned into the massive box of Doom. I genuinely don't know what's in this box other than like 4 things. But I'm gonna go through them all. And it's probably gonna take me a long time because I'm pretty sure there's like 25 books in here. The first book is The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft, which is not in the book of short stories I have by him because I think this is a novella, perhaps? It's like really short. It's just a bit over 100 pages, but it's Lovecraft. I gotta read some more Lovecraft. The Voyage Out by Virginia Woolf. This is her first novel, and I've never read anything by Virginia Woolf except for like a couple of excerpts from various classes. But like that doesn't even count because I'm pretty sure I didn't read any of them. But I gotta read Virginia Woolf. I feel like everyone's gotta read Virginia Woolf at some point. Artemisia by Alexandra Lapierre. I literally don't know anything about this book. Like, I'm reading the back, and it's something about the 1600s and artists and rape, and I don't know why I picked this up, but I was like, sure, why not? And I'll probably read it at some point. It looks like it could be interesting. And Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I don't remember if I read this book or not. I saw the movie, and as I was debating with my friend whether to get it, some random guy told me I should get it. And I was like, sure, random guy, who I've never met before. I'll definitely take your advice. So I bought it. This was the first book I picked up, so like, I blame him for this binge. I don't know his name, but I blame him for buying 30 books. Without You, There Is No Us by Suki Kim. It's about North Korea. I think it's non-fiction. I don't actually know. It's about North Korea. And it's basically about students and a teacher who's trying to teach them English. And I don't know. But North Korea is kind of fascinating because it's this like random dystopia in our world that we sort of just like leave be. David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. I've got something by Dickens on my shelf, but I've never read anything by him, so I decided to pick up some ridiculously massive, old, falling apart paperback. Into the Wild by John Krakauer. I have Into Thin Air, which is also by him, and I've actually read this. This was one of the few required reading books that I actually read, probably because it's really short. It's like less than 200 pages, but it's about a guy who decides to go camping in Alaska and then he dies, and this is like his journal, I think, along with narration about like what happened. And I don't know, I remember really liking it in high school, and I don't think I have a copy. Committing Journalism, The Prison Writings of Red Hog. This is about a convict who wrote about a lot of life in prison, like racism and healthcare and harassment, and I'm reading this off the back. I don't really remember, but yeah. And this is obviously a school book from somewhere because it's like tabbed, but it's not like horrifically written in. Like you can see someone wrote in it some, but like I don't mind that. People's notes are interesting to me in books, and it looked really interesting because I took some journalism classes. My father's a reporter, so this looked like the kind of book I would really enjoy. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I've heard this talked about for a really long time. I know a lot of people really love it, and I just figured I'd pick it up because it always vaguely intrigued me, but not enough to get a copy. Oh god, I actually did get this book. Yeah. How We Decide by Jonah Lehrer. This is a book on how we make decisions, and I'm pretty sure I picked this up as a joke. I don't remember actually keeping this. But yeah, I'm terrible at making decisions, which is why I got this. And I'm like, maybe this will teach me how to make decisions, or maybe it'll sit on my bookshelf for the next 6 years and I'll never read it. I really thought I put this back. Okay then. Keeping Faith by Jodi Picoult. I have like the entire shelf of her back here, and I'll probably just keep adding to it slowly. But I didn't have this one, and I read this one, and I kind of liked it. Like, I just pick up books that, like, I read and kind of liked. But I do like collecting her books, and I like having a nice shelf dedicated to her, because sometimes I do just want to pick up one of her books that I enjoyed. And this was one of them. Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim by David Sedaris. I have a couple of his books. Well, actually, I only have one now. I have Naked, and I read When You Were Engulfed in Flames, which I gave to my friend because there was a whole thing on spiders, and I don't do spiders. But I really do love Sedaris, and I've heard good things about this one. Everything by him sounds good. If I see him, I'll get it. Just because I do really like his writing style. Grey by E.L. James. I have the first 3, and at some point I'm going to go through and, well, I started, but at some point I will sit down and read them all, and I was annotating them, and I found the trilogy at, like, Goodwill, so I paid, like, $3 for all 3 of them, and it was worth it, because I'm gonna, like, highlight and go crazy, and I have tabs, and it's great. But I didn't have Grey, and I kind of wasn't planning on getting it, but my friend pulled it off the shelf and was like, here, now you can get the 4th one, too. So, hurrah! This is, like, way longer than the rest of them, too. I don't understand. This is not 500 pages. Oh my god. Jesus. I will get to this at some point. I'm not going to do a review on these books because everyone's already hate-read them, and I have nothing to add to that conversation. This is just for my own personal amusement. Some Girls by Kristen McCloy. I'm not even going to pretend like I have any idea what this is about. Claire does something. Urban Anarchy. Oh, she moves from New Mexico to New York and does some things. But yeah, I don't know. I picked it up. They had like a couple of copies of this, I think, and when I found the 3rd one, I just finally said sure. Clearly it's calling to me. The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This is about something, I don't know, but I've heard of it, and I've heard it's really good, and I hadn't read it, so Perfect by Natasha Friend, and it's about eating disorders and family issues, and it's young adult, and yeah, I don't know. There isn't a whole lot of young adult in thrift stores that I found, other than the insanely popular, like, Divergent or Hunger Games or Harry Potter that you come across, and Twilight. Like, other than that, it's really hard to find young adult. So, when I come across something, I usually pick it up. At least in the ones I go to. It might be different elsewhere, but I have a really hard time finding much of anything that's young adult. This is Killed, Great Journalism Too Hot to Print, edited by David Wallace. Basically, it's, like, stories that were written mostly by, like, really well-known journalists who, the stories were, like, too controversial, or the papers were, like, too afraid that there was something risky in it, that they would get sued, and such on and so forth. This looks really good. I do enjoy journalism, and I have enough of a background in journalism that this would be really interesting as more than just the stories itself, but, like, the introductions to each piece. But, like, George Orwell's got a piece in here. Larry Doyle, Robert Frisk, P.J. O'Rourke, Daniel Asa Rose, Betty Friedan. Those names probably don't mean anything to anyone but me, but, like, I recognize some of these people, and I really like studying journalism, like, more the way it used to be, because it's sort of dying in a way that it's done, and there's a lot more freelancing and less, you know, like, really famous journalists, but that's a whole different tangent, and this video is already way too long, so looking forward to that. Special Topics in Calamity Physics by Marisha Pessl. This is a novel, and I'm not really sure, but it had a really interesting title, and the cover was interesting. Like, it's not one of the covers I'm like, oh, that's stunning. It's just, like, really interesting to me, and it's a novel, and I have no idea what it's about, but it kind of called to me, so hopefully I will enjoy it, because it really does look like it could be really cool, hopefully. This book is dying. It gets so ripped up, but it's called The Reader by Bernhard Schlink. It's something with coiled eroticism and a mesmerizing novel of love, secrets, horror, compassion, unfolding against the haunted landscape of post-war Germany. I don't know. It looked interesting, and I don't mind if my books are falling apart. Like, it's still perfectly readable. I don't remember picking this up. The Berlitz Self-Teacher in German. It's a German grammar book. When was this? When's the publication date on this? This looks old. This was printed in 1975, so this may or may not help me learn German. But it's a cool book. Mitch Albom, For One More Day. This is basically like, if you could go back and fix things, would you do it, and what would you do? And it's short, it's Mitch Albom. I still haven't read the other books of his I got, but I didn't have this one, and it looked sort of interesting, so it's short. Like, even if I hate it, it's gonna take me like an hour and a half to read. The Dead and the Gone by Susan Beth Pfeffer. I think this is a companion piece from Life as We Knew It, which I think I actually read like a really long time ago. But I love Susan Beth Pfeffer. She wrote a couple of things that I really, really loved that I'm not remembering what they were. But when I was like in middle school, and maybe even high school some, I remember really loving her, and just like, if she wrote it, I picked it up. There wasn't much, because like, she's not super well known, I don't think, but I'll get Life as We Knew It from the library and read that first. But this looked really interesting. It's like post-apocalyptic, something happens in a city. It's one of those that the back is reviews of the book, which is super not helpful for me, but I recognize her, and it's young adult, and yeah. This is Smell a Sense of Snow by Peter Hoag. I've wanted this book. Is there? There's the bookmark from the book. That makes me happy. But this was on my, like, I have a list of 1001 books to read before you die, and this was on that list, but for whatever reason, my library doesn't have it. And my library hasn't had it in years, and this is one of the ones I'd marked to read in the near future when I was like in high school, because it got referenced in My Sister's Keeper, and it looked interesting because I looked it up, and then my library didn't have it, and I just never came across it, and I randomly saw it after not having thought about it in years, and I picked it up, and it made me happy, and I kind of want to read this really soon, but I kind of have a really long TBR right now, so I don't know, but I was quite pleased to find this. The Return of the Navid by Thomas Hardy. Yeah, I don't know, I just know this is a classic, and it's probably one of the books I should pick up at some point, and perhaps I will now that I own it. Oh, another Dickens book, Christmas Carol, because I don't own it, and I've never read it, and I kind of feel like I should, and it's short, so like, I have no excuse not to read it. Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. This is a really old book, but it's in fairly good condition other than the ripped up dust jacket. And I've never read it, and I probably should have read it by now, and yeah, I really should have read it by now, but I will soon. It's got like red top, which is cool. That's how you know it's old. And the last book I got is Those Girls by Chevy Stevens, which is about three girls who grow up in an abusive household, I think, and they run away together, and then 18 years later, something happens, and it's a thriller, and things are going wrong, and one of them goes missing, and then her daughter goes missing, and I don't really know, but I kind of like thrillers, and I just happened across it, and sure, why not? That's an ongoing theme here, just why not? Let's do it. 27 books, and that's about how long this unedited video is right now, so I'm gonna wrap this up and say bye guys, because this was vaguely ridiculous and I need to stop buying books, but I probably won't, because buying books makes me happy and it's what I do when I'm stressed, because there are only so many new piercings I can get. Bye y'all.